Hey guys, welcome to this week's edition of the Bulldog Bark. We got a campaign coverage featuring interviews with students and Coach Tomlinson. Later in the show, we'll present our Athletes of the Week and shine our college spotlight down on NC State.
So we're here with Mr. Tomlinson talking about the mock election. How do you feel the mock election went?
It turned out went very well. I want to thank Mr. Capico for being the precinct director for that mock election. The mock election was very smooth, and I appreciate all the homeroom teachers allowing their students to do that. I think that it was good for the students to experience that.
Are you surprised by the results?
I am not surprised at the results, but I wouldn't have been surprised either way. It was a flip of a coin this year. We were very divided. The whole nation was divided, but I thought that maybe Eastern North Carolina would vote more conservative, and that's what happened.
How well informed do you think the students are for the people they're voting for?
I feel that they're very uninformed. I think that that is representative of most voters in the United States. But so I think it was a good lesson for us to learn that many of the people that are on the ballot, we have absolutely no idea who they are or what they stand for, and we just most of the time either abstain from that vote or just randomly vote. So I think that was probably one of the best things about the lesson, is that we discovered that we were not informed about who was running.
Would you consider the mock election to be a success?
Absolutely. Looking at the numbers, it looked like we had about 45 to 50% participation, which is right on the mark for what was probably going to come out to be the last night participation, maybe 55 to 60% last night.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
This week we're asking questions about last week's election.
It was a very heated election, so we want everybody's opinion. Let's get into it. How do you feel about the results of the election?
I think it was a very close race. And either one of them could have won. Seeing that Hillary had the popular vote, but Trump had the electoral college votes.
How do you feel about the results of the election?
I feel great, happy. That's what I feel.
How do you feel about the results of the election?
I feel pretty happy with them. I like how it ended up.
Why do you think Trump won?
I feel like a lot of people liked him, and he was able to appeal to a lot of different types of people.
All right, thank you. How do you feel about the results of the election?
I'm happy, but I still don't know why people say Trump is racist.
How do you feel about the results of the election?
Well, I will tell you that the election last night kind of felt a lot like Game 7 of the World Series for me, with the Cubs and the Indians. It was so tight, and it could have gone either way. It went extra innings almost. Just like the World Series, I stayed up probably way too late, so I'm working on about 50 minutes of sleep today. But I think that overall, there are some elections that took place, especially in the state of North Carolina, that beyond the presidential election, that are going to have an impact. And so I hope everybody went out and participated in the process, because it is a process that we should not take for granted.
you feel about the results of the election?
I think it was really unexpected, and I still think Hillary Clinton was more preferred, and I think she could have done something better with our country.
How do you feel about the results of the election? How do you feel about the results of the election?
I love it.
How do you feel about the results of the election?
Well, I'm glad that Hillary Clinton's not in office. I think she should be in prison. Donald Trump, he ain't the best, but you know, it's not Hillary Clinton.
About the election, guys, Trump,
He won. Trump won.
Yes, Trump did win the election, and we'll have to accept that as a country and move forward together as a country. Many Democrats are obviously upset about this turnout. This was bound to happen. Someone had to lose. That does not invalidate what could have been if Clinton won the most electoral votes, as we are here to discuss.
Well, I'll also talk about what Trump being president-elect means for our country.
We'll be talking about why or why not each candidate should or should not have been voted into office and what it means for our country. Bradley BIZZELL will be representing the Republican Party and Kat Velez will be representing the Democratic Party. Let's get started. What kind of goals does Trump have for America and our government?
Well, he has 10 main campaign promises. There is border control, temporarily banning Muslims from entering the U.S., increasing manufacturing jobs, imposing tariffs on goods made in China and Mexico, renegotiating or withdrawing from North American Free Trade Agreement, full repeal of Obamacare, negotiation with Iran, leaving Social Security as it is, cutting taxes, and bombing or taking oil from ISIS.
What kind of goals does Hillary have for America and our government?
Our country is always changing, and Democrats, like Hillary, tend to be more progressive, whereas Republicans tend to be very conservative. This means she represents many Democrats' general goals for this country, ones like racial justice, women's rights, bettering our education system, mental health, bettering our Social Security and Medicare, supporting veterans, armed forces and their families, preventing gun violence, fixing America's infrastructure, protecting labor and worker rights, and criminal justice reform.
Why should Trump have been elected?
Well, he is in favor of the death penalty, which will allow our taxes to go to other means than keeping criminals like murderers alive in our prisons. He is in favor of private prisons where individuals are confined or incarcerated by a third-party government agency. These help save money and generate income for the surrounding community. He is strongly in favor of giving churches back their voice and having them remain tax exempt. Trump has a neutral relationship with Russia and thinks we should be able to work out well with each other towards defeating terrorism and restoring world peace, as well as a trade and all the benefits derived from mutual respect. As for why Clinton is unfit to be the president, she does not believe the U.S. should send troops to fight against ISIS. She has been accused of deleting about 33,000 emails of classified information. Clinton also does not believe in our Second Amendment rights to bear arms.
Why should Hillary have been elected?
Well, regarding gun control, Hillary does not want the expulsion of our Second Amendment rights. On the subject, she has said, "I know we are smart enough as a nation to figure out how to protect responsible gun owners' rights and get guns out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them." Hillary has addressed the email situation. She has expressed numerous times her regret towards the situation, and the scandal may very well have been what kept her from gaining more votes. Regarding the unfortunate deaths in Benghazi, she said, quote, "I've been racking my brain about what more could have been done or should have been done." Also, on a separate occasion, she has stated, "Those who exploit this tragedy over and over as a political tool minimize the sacrifice of those who served our country." A huge positive trait of hers is the fact that she is a politician and familiar with the government and how it should be run, as opposed to Trump. She has served as a U.S. Senator for New York and as a U.S. Secretary of State. According to this year's exit polls, a shared trait in educated people, especially non-white college graduates, 71%, or college graduates and people who participated in even postgraduate studies, were votes for Clinton. As for why we should be worried about Trump being president, well, Trump has no political or military experience. There's never been a president-elect who has had neither, and there are endless good reasons why. Trump supporters have said over and over a big plus to Trump becoming our president is his experience with business. But Trump has filed for bankruptcy 6 times. Another harsh reality about our president-to-be? His brutal racism and sexism. We cannot have someone so strongly biased against many groups of people he's supposed to represent, protect, and better the home of. He said in regards to his build a wall border control, I quote, "They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists." He's referring to Mexican immigrants. He's also singled out Muslims. Quote, "Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what's going on." What we need to understand is not all Muslims are terrorists. We cannot punish, neglect, or turn away people in a religious group because a select group of Islamic extremists have been associated with the general Muslims in the media. And of course, the recording of Donald Trump speaking about women in vulgar and degrading terms to Billy Bush, the previous host of Access Hollywood, shows his disrespect towards women. PolitiFact claims only 4% of 331 Donald Trump public statements and claims were determined to be true, whereas his mostly false to pants on fire ratings are at a whopping 73%. If Trump will be responsible for the functioning of our government and is going to represent our country, why did his staff take away his control of his Twitter account? Trump's staff was trying to keep him from one of his infamous rants right before the polls. This is not a quality of a good, responsible man, let alone someone expected to be our president. The Republican Party's 2012 nominee, Mitt Romney, tried to persuade Republicans to stop Trump's momentum, saying he is playing the members of the American for suckers. He gets free ride to the White House, and all we get is a lousy hand. He also mentioned Trump does not have the temperament or judgment to be president, warning of economic and foreign policy crises if he were to succeed.
All of this still matters. Your views and opinions matter. Whether the election is over or not, no matter your personal stance on today's politics, specifically where we stand with who we have elected to be our president, it is important to be informed and never throw out reasoning in debate. As a country, we need to strive to understand and respect people we may have opposing views to. Debating respectfully and intelligently is a possibility and something we as Americans should participate in, especially when it comes to who is representing us as a country. Protesting for what you believe in can be okay, but peaceful protesting is much more likely to keep people safe while allowing you to make your point. According to the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. The moment protests and petitions get out of hand is the moment damage is done to property or violence breaks out. We can express our needs and rights in a safe, civilized, and responsible way.
President Barack Obama has said in a speech on November 9th, the day after votes were counted and Trump was pronounced our new president-elect, a very important point for all Americans to remember.
Everybody is sad when their side loses an election, but the day after, we have to remember that we're actually all on one team. This is an intramural scrimmage. We're not Democrats first, we're not Republicans first, we are Americans first, and we're patriots first.
Comment below.
Since Hillary won the popular vote but lost the presidential election due to the electoral system, protests and passionate, even sometimes violent, acts have sparked throughout America in response to the election of Donald J. Trump as our president-elect. How should we go about this fresh divide in Democrats and Republicans in wake of this heated election?
How can we work together as a country and promote progressive debate and even peaceful protesting?
How can we as American people work together despite our political viewpoint differences?
How can we petition against things we don't believe in or government action we don't agree with without getting out of hand? Where do you think the line should be drawn between what is right and what is wrong when petitioning?
What's your stance on the election?
Now that Donald has won the presidential election, an important thing we as Americans should be worried about now is whether he will deliver on his promises to the country given during his candidacy.
What are your plans after high school?
My plans after high school are to attend a four-year university and try to continue playing soccer if it all works out.
What is your reflection of the season?
We definitely handled the transition well from Coach Hicks to Coach Hart. It was a great season, but we definitely didn't go as far as we would have wanted to, but it was still a great season. We got to become close as a family and as friends, so it was great.
What is your best memory?
Dropping a cabinet on Beau's head and knocking him out.
This week's college spotlight is NC State University. Founded in 1887 and located in Raleigh, NC State is now the largest university in North Carolina. Of all the colleges that make up NC State, including engineering, social science, and agricultural, have the highest undergraduate enrollment. Athletics are big for NC State, and the university's 60,000-seat football stadium nearly always sells out. The NC State University Wolfpack are the founding member of the Atlantic Coast Conference. The total enrollment is 33,989 students. The total cost for in-state is $22,954. The application deadline is January 15th.
Thank you for watching the Bulldog Bark this week. We won't be here next week, so have a great Thanksgiving.